Hello, listeners. Yamina here. I'm very excited to have you join us for another Dr. GPCR podcast episode. If you haven't heard, we are officially a nonprofit 501c3 organization. Becoming a nonprofit only solidifies our mission to serve the GPCR community. Therefore, we're taking a short podcast break starting in July to come back with new episodes at the end of August, as well as an amazing set of events in the fall. If you are an ecosystem member, by now you know that every Thursday you get your weekly news or weekly GPCR news delivered directly in your inbox. If you're not an ecosystem member yet, join us today. Thanks to our fantastic team of volunteers of GPCR scientists, a GPCR article will also hit your inbox weekly on Tuesdays. Also, mark your calendars for not one, but two Dr. GPCR University classes with Dr. Terry Kanakin. The first one is titled Techniques for Effective Lead Optimization of Candidate Molecules, Principles of Pharmacology for Drug Discovery, which will start on Thursdays, September 5th at 10 a.m. EST and run for 4 consecutive weeks for 90 minutes. Then, on October 3rd, an advanced class will start about therapeutic translation of GPCR activity, advanced method for the optimization of candidate selection. This class will run for 5 consecutive weeks, also from 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursdays. For both courses, we will be offering 5 scholarships per course to GPCR scientists who live and work in developing countries. So stay tuned. Just a short week after the beginning of our second Dr. GPCR University class in the fall with Dr. Kanakin, on October 11th, we will be hosting our Dr. GPCR Symposium on GPCRs as therapeutic targets. During that day, we'll have talks from speakers of all levels, both from industry and academia, a poster session, as well as a panel discussion. We're also excited to be co-organizing our very first in-person Adhesion GPCR workshop in collaboration with Dr. Anthony Boucard from the Adhesion GPCR Consortium. Mark your calendars for October 23 to 25 and join us in Mexico City for a fantastic meeting on all fascinating aspects of Adhesion GPCRs and more. If you'd like to sponsor the Adhesion GPCR workshop, please email us at hello@drgpcr.com. Both emails, actually, we have now 2 emails, hello@drgpcr.com and hello@drgpcr.org. Both of these emails will be active for a foreseeable future to make sure that we don't miss your emails. And now, let's dive into this episode. Hello, everyone. This is Yamina from DrGPCR. Today, I have a very special set of guests with us. Today, we're talking about the Metabolic Endocrine GPCRs meeting, and I have 3 of the 5 organizers of the meeting. I want to welcome you all for being here. Thank you for joining me so early in the morning, at least in Boston, or midday in the UK. So let's start off with a round of introductions, and then we can dive into the topic. Eileen, I'm going to call upon you first.
Thanks, Yamina. So I'm Eileen Honyolalu. I'm a professor in molecular medicine at Imperial College London, and my research interests around GPCRs within women's reproductive health and also the gut.
Thank you, Eileen. Alejandra?
Hello, so I'm Alejandra Thomas. I am a senior lecturer also at Imperial College, and my interest is in Class B GPCRs on islet biology and type 2 diabetes.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Caroline.
Hi, I'm Caroline Gorvin. I'm a Henry Dale Fellow at the University of Birmingham, and I look at signaling and trafficking of a number of different endocrine and metabolic GPCRs.
Fantastic. All right, so let's start us off with the first question I have for you, and maybe we can go in the same order. The more stories you have to share, the more interesting behind-the-scenes preparations you have to share about the meeting, the better. So how did the idea of putting together such a meeting come?
So it was Bioscientifica is the organization who helped us run this meeting. They run various conferences, including this for the Society for Endocrinology annual meeting. And they kind of approached with the idea of running a GPCR meeting. So they contacted me, and it's kind of wish where Davide was here, because I think we have slightly different recollections, because he said that I was the one who was going to engage first, but I thought he was the one that was engaged first. But anyway, that's kind of where it started. But what was kind of really kind of nice, I think we both had similar individuals in mind that we really wanted to kind of be part of the kind of the core organizing committee, which is where Alejandra and Caroline came in. And for me, it kind of felt like there used to be, at least within the UK, like every 2 years, there was a sort of a GPCR meeting. It was run by the British Pharmacological Society, cell signaling one. And because we hadn't had that for quite a few years, it kind of really felt that there was a gap in this area. And it was always a meeting that wasn't just for the UK community, it was also to be more inclusive, at least sort of geographically as well. So that's kind of where it kind of started from.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Alejandra, anything else to add? What was your impression when this idea came about?
No, I think Eileen explained very well where it came from. I guess we got contacted a bit later on by Eileen and Davide to join this idea, and we thought it was a very exciting idea to try and start something new on this sort of gap that we felt was lacking a little bit on endocrine metabolic GPCRs. So that's how it really came to be. Yeah.
Thank you, Caroline. Anything to add?
Not much more. I just felt like there was a gap, really. Certainly when we go to other meetings, there seems to be lots of interest in endocrine and metabolic GPCRs, but there isn't really a specific meeting in the UK. So I was interested in helping out.
At what point, Caroline, did you join the team of organizers? Because what Eileen had mentioned, so Bioscientifica reached out to Davide and or Eileen at close together at some time, and Eileen and Davide brought together this larger team. I just want to understand the order in which the chronological order of the organizers. How did you come together?
So I think myself and Alejandro were brought in shortly after there was initial discussions with Bioscientifica. I know I've worked with Bioscientifica a few times for other endocrine meetings. I think we were brought in quite quickly afterwards, and then we had a number of initial meetings where we just discussed speakers that we were interested in approaching, and what we really wanted the general content to be, and then it just went from there, really.
That's fantastic. And I have to say, we at DrGPCR worked with Bioscientifica to help spread the word about this endocrine metabolic GPCRs meeting. And it was a pleasure working with the entire Bioscientifica team. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the meeting, but I'm hoping that next time I'll be able to make it. So once you brought the team together, how did you go about putting together the program? And to your point, there was no endocrine metabolic GPCR meeting at all, as far as I know, going back a couple of years. At DrGPCR, as you know, we collect all the events. So typically in January or December, we already start collecting and Googling all the meetings that happen. I don't remember ever seeing such a meeting. And you're right, there was a need, especially today, because everybody heard about metabolic GPCRs and endocrine GPCRs in some shape or form, depending on what news outlet you watch. So when you started putting together the program, what was the focus, the primary focus? Eileen?
So I think the primary focus was, it's quite broad, even though we've kind of specialized it down within the GPCR world, you kind of like feel like it gets scrunched down. But even within those kind of two areas, there is kind of a lot of scope of where you can cover. So I think that was the kind of first initial discussion is kind of what aspect do we kind of want to focus, because it is quite broad. And we really wanted to kind of make sure that there was the kind of whole kind of scales, as it were. So going from the kind of the structural work all the way to the translational work and the people who are working with patients. So I think that was kind of one of the first kind of key areas that we wanted to make sure was represented within that area. I don't know how others want to.
Yeah, no, I feel, we first had to decide the length as well of the meeting, the location. So all these decisions needed to be made because this was the first round. So there were a lot of unknowns at the beginning, how long the sessions were going to be, how many oral presentations versus keynote speakers. So I think we had quite a bit of preparation at the beginning to just basically set up the basics, and then we could start to construct the program. So yeah, that's how it started.
Alejandra and Caroline, was this your first time organizing or helping organize such a I don't know how many people actually ended up coming to the meeting, but I think it was a significant, by seeing the pictures on Twitter, the attendance was significant. Was it your first time doing putting together such a meeting?
For me, yes. I think Caroline has maybe more experience than me.
Yeah, so I am on the Society for Endocrinology program committee. So I've helped organize meetings, but that's a very different type of meeting. So that's more a mixture of clinicians and basic scientists, and it has a different focus. I've never worked on a much narrower focus meeting like this.
So what was your experience, Caroline, working for the first time, I'm assuming, on such a narrow, quote unquote narrow, depending on where you're looking from, because Eileen, you just mentioned that you try to cover lots of topics within this narrower. What was your experience compared to the other meetings you've been organizing before?
I think it was different, basically. It was quite easy to organize this because it was quite a small organizing committee, and we all know one another. And we all had similar ideas about who to approach. So we already decided on the sort of overview topics, and then we could just come up with ideas for people to speak from there. For the other larger meetings that I'm involved in, there's many more people on the committee, and there's lots more ideas for what people want included in the program.
More compromises to make, I'm assuming, when the more people, the more compromises. All right, so let's dive into the actual meeting. How was it? As again, I couldn't make it. I was looking at the pictures on Twitter and telling myself, I wish I'd be there. I looked at the program, it was fabulous. But what was the energy? Any takeaways? And let's switch it and let's start with Alejandra.
Yes, it was such a pleasure to organize, and also, I was really, impressed by the list of speakers we managed to put together. So I was actually very positively impressed that a lot of the speakers took our invitation and came along, despite the fact that this was the first run. So we basically more or less took our pick, right? We decided on who we wanted to be there, and
all our favorites, yes.
most of them, they actually were there. So I was pretty impressed about that, and very positively impressed. And I think it felt really a very exciting meeting. We had really good feedback while during the 2 days, and we had people approaching us, telling us that, yeah, there was a real need to bring together the community in this way. And I think it went really well. I don't know whether Caroline or Eileen can discuss also.
All right, Caroline, let's hear.
Yeah, I would say I was quite apprehensive before attending, because I was a little bit worried that with it being the first meeting, it might not work as we'd planned it to. So we tried to work in quite a lot of networking opportunities, so everyone had a chance to chat, and lots of opportunities for ECRs to present as well, which I was keen on. But yeah, I would say that I wasn't sure how successful it would be because it'd never been done before.
Eileen.
I think I was just excited, probably maybe like, I don't know, perhaps naive, like you said, but I was just like, oh, there's just once we had the speakers, I was just, it was really just excited to kind of to attend. But then I was pleased to see the turnout for the first time. I think it was about 80 or so, which for the room that we had, it was like full. So it felt, it was a really good size. And for that sort of day and a half that we were there, it was kind of like a good size for everyone to kind of have time to kind of connect and interact and network, which was one of our really kind of key goals for this meeting. So we didn't just want to throw a pile of content at people. We really want to get people talking to each other.
And I think that's very important, because sometimes, well, actually, most meetings you go to, you're being put in a room and there's speakers after speakers after speakers of presentations, which, don't get me wrong, is not a bad thing, but there's not a lot of us, at least from where I'm standing, can take 8 hours nonstop of talks and be focused on each and every talk and ask pertinent questions. Although I know people who can do that. Michel Bouvier is one of them, who can sit through any type of presentation and always ask a question after each talk. What type of networking opportunities were there? And did you have poster presentations? I'm thinking here about, bringing in the community at all levels. One of Dr. GPCR's missions is to be as democratic as possible when we put together online events. So for our symposia, you can have a PhD student followed by someone who's been in the field for 20 years as a PI. How did you go about bringing people together outside of the talks during this day and a half?
Yeah, we had a poster sessions that were kind of embedded in the same room where we were having the presentation. So I felt that worked really well, because in the breaks, people, which were fairly off, we had fairly numerous breaks during the day, and I think that worked quite well, because people could just hang around the posters and have discussions around them. We had also 4 oral presentations, I believe, that were chosen from our abstract submitting candidates, and I think that was also really good. I feel maybe for the future we might want to find the balance between the keynote speakers and the oral presentations. I don't know how this will work out, because we only had 2 days and we didn't want to overwhelm people with talks, which I think was a good idea. I think the number of talks were about correct.
Yeah. I think in the end we decided that we wouldn't have like a keynote, so all the invited speakers, everyone was kind of on the same level. There wasn't like a keynote, so everybody had the same time, and then there was a kind of a range of career stages within that. So we had from postdocs to more senior individuals within that invited group as well. So we tried to be inclusive as much as possible. But I'd say the posters was really great, just from the buzz around there for such a long time. So we would even over drinks, beyond drinks, and then the next day you see like continuation without kind of having it as a kind of set time for posters. People were kind of really keen to kind of engage with the ECRs, with their work. So that was really fantastic to see.
Yeah, I was very happy with the balance of time in talks versus time for networking, because often in other meetings that are quite short, like 2 days or 3-day meeting, you tend to have so many talks, like you were saying, and it's kind of good to give opportunity to everyone to speak, but I think it's also good to have breaks and to have time to discuss on a more personal level with people that you might be interested in collaborating, or you're interested more in their work. So I think we got the balance right. I felt we had a lot of information, but not too much information. I don't know what Caroline and Eileen think.
Caroline,
yeah, I agree. It was a nice balance, I think. I really enjoyed the poster session. I thought all the people presenting were really engaged. They were really excited about what they were working on. So that was nice.
No, I love it. Do you think the day and a half was enough, or maybe the next meeting? Because we started talking about the potentially next meeting and when that might happen before we started recording. The reason I'm asking is because when you go to, for example, a Gordon conference, that's a whole other concept. I get it, but then you're all together and it can get so much fun and intense. My first Gordon conference was in Il Ciocco in Italy. It was the molecular pharmacology, and I do remember the poster sessions. We were supposed to switch posters by night. We ended up keeping all the posters up throughout the entire meeting, and drinks were brought in and people were spending, hours until, 10, 11 p.m. chatting around the posters. And that energy, sometimes it's hard to bring together over a day and a half. People need maybe a little bit more time to network. So I'm just wondering, what do you think for next time?
I mean, I think because of the size of the group that we were, it was probably the day and a half. I mean, I'm possibly leaning to maybe slightly more than a day and a half, but I think that would be up for discussion. I mean, we did put out sort of a questionnaire to the attendees to, with those kinds of questions. So it would be great to hear from the community what people would actually want to see. So I don't know how everyone else feels, but potentially we could go for, I would be happy for a bit longer.
I think having maybe another half a day perhaps, but I think it worked really well the first day to have only half a day, so to let people arrive and settle and then start a bit later. I think that was a good idea. But perhaps we could have a third morning where we kind of give more opportunity again for, more oral communication from abstracts that can be included, and more opportunities for, even more opportunities for early career researchers to talk. We could think in those terms. Of course, we have to balance the number of people and, the costs as well. But I think maybe, because this was the first one, we didn't want to make it too long so that people, were tempted to come. But maybe now that they've had a taster, we might be able to convince them to stay another day.
No, I agree. That's why I was wondering, because I think the day and a half, I think as a start is really great, because you needed to know how many people are interested. And if you filled the room, because when you said, Eileen, you said 80 people, I was like, well, that's a really small meeting when you think about it. But when you fill in the numbers, not in the quality of the people who are in the room and the interest towards metabolic endocrine GPCRs, but filling a room and having people together for a day and a half across posters, presentations, drinks, food, it's great because you're small enough to develop this camaraderie, which is already there by email, because we all work in different countries and different time zones. But it's really nice to be able to spend time in that room. So let me ask you this: what was the audience? Was it the audience more academic, or did you have people from industry? What was that balance, if you have a sense of that?
I think it was primarily academic. I mean, there was definitely industry individuals, and perhaps maybe nice to see perhaps more than perhaps was initially thought. So that was really, really good to see. I don't know from anyone else's interactions or viewpoints. I mean, it was a good from the I would say the mix of as well where kind of stages that people are at too. So you had the sort of from students all the to professor. I couldn't recall off the top of my head on the balance to say, but I think it was a good spread across those. I mean, there were certain individuals who felt like they brought their whole lab with them as well. So that was
very impressive.
It certainly felt very, very academic, and there were a lot of people from different universities, also from across Europe and even beyond, which was really great. But of course, if we grow in the coming years, there's a scope for, maybe more industry people to join. We will have to discuss.
No, the reason I was asking is because I was talking with the Bioscientifica team, and I said one thing from my perspective is missing is meetings where you have early discovery, academic research up until drug discovery within the same topic. I think we don't speak to each other enough times, and we're the same metal, we're just to the two sides of it. So who knows, maybe next time we'll get to explore a meeting where we have, speakers from industry as well who work in this on these types of GPCRs. And then we can have this wider spread, wider representation. Not that having just an academic meeting or just an industry meeting is a bad thing, but it's not common to have the whole pipeline, let's say, the whole GPCR pipeline from academic early discovery to actually industry. And obviously the two crowds have different needs, but we still need to come together, because that's how we move forward, understanding all GPCRs.
Couldn't agree more, Yamina. We will definitely, I think we can easily, that's an easy fix, right, to put that in. I think that's an absolute must then for the next one. We definitely
so
do.
When is the next one?
To be honest, we haven't had that conversation yet. So I think we had a moment to kind of get back together and kind of, I think once we get all the feedback in from the meeting from Bioscientifica, then we can start to plan the next steps. But I think the plan is moving forward that this will be every 2 years to have this meeting. I think that would be a viable option for everyone. And we've also got an interest if people want to join the program committee too, would be out to us as well.
No, I think that's going to be fantastic. Well, I have news for you. It's kind of on social media, but not totally out there. As of last month, Dr. GPCR is a charity. So we're very excited about that. Our first co-organized in-person meeting is going to be the Adhesion GPCR workshop down in Mexico. I've also already spoken to Bioscientifica. We're happy to collaborate with them for the next meeting. So please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to be able to help pull together the the endocrine metabolic GPCR community.
That's
we're
great.
one family.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Very good.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I think if there's nothing else to add, I've asked all the questions I had. I think the listeners are going to love hearing about this meeting. They're going to get excited. They're going to be waiting for them to mark an X in their calendars in 2 years when this meeting is coming back. Thank you again. I think it was a fantastic meeting from what I've heard from people who were there. Thank you again for your time today. Very excited to have been able to talk to you, and I will see you all very soon.
Thank you, Yamina, and thank you for your support with this meeting as well.
Thank you. I'm going to stop recording. I need a favor. Please share the Dr. GPCR University program with your friends and colleagues, especially if they live and work in a developing country. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Many of you come back to watch our videos, but aren't subscribed. Having more subscribers will help us get you more content. Thank you for joining us and listening to this Dr. GPCR podcast episode. We would like to thank our guest and our Dr. GPCR team, Attila, Ines, Montserrat, Ivana, Cam, John, Yatsu, Andreina, and Balint. If you like our podcast, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. You can also leave us a testimonial at drgpcr.com/testimonials. And don't forget to subscribe to our monthly newsletter on our website to get all the news about all the work that we've been doing and we are doing at Dr. GPCR directly delivered into your inbox. Another great way to support us is to share your favorite Dr. GPCR programs with your network and colleagues. Email us with any questions or suggestions at hello@drgpcr.com or hello@drgpcr.org. As I mentioned, both emails will be active for a foreseeable future to make sure that we don't miss your email. Until next time, stay safe.